Good morning, thank you very much for joining me and welcome to February's monthly book club. For newer viewers who don't know, I run an online YouTube monthly book club where we read one book a month and then discuss it. I have a Facebook group linked for this where we choose the books and discuss them. That is linked below in the description box, so please come and join us in there if you'd like to. I make this video in two parts. The first part is where I discuss and answer the questions about the book we've read this month, and the second part is always something a little bit different but book related, and today when I finish talking about this month's book I'm going to come back to you and tell you a little bit about a couple of book recommendations for books I've read this month and what I'm reading at the moment. So I'll see you again at the end for the second part, but let's move now backwards in time, recording wise anyway, to what I filmed immediately after I'd finished this month's book. Hi guys, welcome to February Book Club, and this month we are talking about The Dry by Jane Harper. This is the book that we have read this month. Thank you very much to Joanne who chose this book, and also she set the questions for this month's book club, which is lovely. It's something one less thing that I have to do, so it's very, very nice when the person who chose the book sets the questions. So big thank you for that, Joanne. I am very happy to say, after the last 2 months' books, neither of which I managed to finish, just didn't get on with them at all, that I enjoyed this. I did enjoy it. I think from reading some of the initial comments we haven't had the discussion in the book group yet on Facebook, but from reading some of the initial comments that I think some of you guys have enjoyed it as well, so that's great news. I found it really easy to read. It was so easy to get into. It was a proper story. In fact, let's go straight to the questions before I start waxing lyrical about it. So the first question is, did you like the book? Why or why not? Yes, I did like it. I would give this a solid 4 stars out of 5 personally. Sorry, I was just looking to see if there was a question at the end that said what you would score it. But yeah, this was a 4. There's not a question, so I'll tell you now. I've told you already. So 4 stars out of 5 for this, for me. I did like it. I found it really easy to get into. I found the writing style very accessible. It was a page turner. I was invested in the story and wanted to know what was going on. I found the characters interesting. I found it had a proper beginning, middle and an end, and although there were flashbacks, unlike last month's book, they were put in at appropriate times. They followed on properly for the story. For me, this is. And it was all just really well written. I thought it was her first novel as well. I was interested to read when I looked into it a bit more, and I think it's a great first novel, really, really good. So yes, big thumbs up from me. Question number 2 is, how well did the author build the world and the characters? I thought she built the setting absolutely brilliant. There was it was set in Australia in the outback during a drought, a very hot summer season during a drought, and you could from her descriptions, and it wasn't over descriptive. That was the thing I liked about it. I thought the prose was very spare, really, and yet she managed to convey to me exactly what it was like, the heat and the aridity, going with aridity, dryness, let's go with dryness, the dryness of the landscape and the heat. And there was one bit, I think it was at the funeral of the family, when Fulk is standing at the funeral outside somewhere, and he said he could feel the heat from the ground rising up through the soles of his shoes, and I thought that was just such a great description of how hot it was, and that really yeah, that really spoke to me, because I've remembered that without making any notes about it or anything. That really made me sort of understand the level of heat, and the small town that it was set in was very believable, and anyone who's lived in a small community will see the parallels, I suspect. Yeah, I thought it was a great setting. Sorry, the question also about how well she built the characters. yeah, I thought the characters were good, well written. I realised before looking into the fact that there are more, this is the first in a series of books with Aaron Falk as the main character, and I assumed that he would be returning because he was quite an interesting character with an interesting background. But yeah, you could, the parents of Luke Hadler, Gretchen and forget the name of the father, but yeah, him, both really well written, I thought. And the guy who ran the pub, I liked his character. I thought that was I could see him in my mind's eye. So yeah, there were lots of people, and they were, you could tell the characters apart in quite a big sort of ensemble cast, really, which I think is always a good sign of a well-written book. Question number 3 is, are the main characters dynamic? Did they change, mature, or learn anything about themselves during the book's journey? And I think this is quite a hard question, because the main part of the book, although it flashes back to 20 years previously or 25 years previously, I don't know exactly when, the main part of the book is told over such a short span of time. It's less than 2 weeks, I think, and I think it's very difficult for people's characters to markedly change within 2 weeks. So did they learn anything about themselves? Again, I find that difficult to answer. I would say no over the period of 2 weeks, although perhaps later on when they reflected back on it, they may have done. Certainly it was interesting going back in the flashbacks, the sort of parallel story about what happened to Ellie, I thought was really interesting, and you could see perhaps why some of the characters acted as they did 20 years on, when you found out how things had happened previously. So I think that's how I'd answer that question. So maybe a little bit, yes. Number 4 was the book's plot engaging, and did you find it believable? It was engaging, definitely. I was very much wanting to turn the pages and get back to it. I read it over just less than 3 days, I think. So yeah, I would say it was a very engaging plot. And quite well paced for me as well. I read some reviews that said they felt it slowed down in the middle of the book, but I didn't find that. I felt it was quite well paced all the way through. I didn't feel like there were any slow parts where I was sort of thinking, oh, well, crack on, you know, let's see what's happening next. So yeah, I did find the plot engaging. Did I find it believable? Yeah, I think I probably did. There was nothing absolutely outrageous. I felt that everybody's actions were, as the things that the characters did were very understandable, and nothing sort of stood out as, sorry, I'm just thinking about a book I'm reading currently where one of the main characters, 2 massive things she's done has really annoyed me, because they haven't felt like it's something that is real, you know. It's felt a bit odd. Yeah, I felt like all the it was believable. Yes, I could just see that happening. And certainly all the issues within the small town, the sort of slight subplot with the pharmacist and the doctor, was it, and somebody, but I don't know, somebody in it anyway. See, as soon as I finish a book, I only finished it 2 days ago and I've forgotten it, but the subplot with the 2 gay characters keeping their relationship a secret, that was very believable in this small community, and yeah, I found it all very believable, yes. Number 5 is, was the ending satisfying? And yes, for me it was. I was really glad that both sort of threads of the plot, the current one with the murder of the family and Ellie's death in the past, were both drawn to a very satisfactory conclusion. As I've said before, I like a story with a beginning, a middle and an end, and I was slightly worried at one time that the subplot with Ellie, or not subplot as such because it was linked, but the thread with Ellie's death was going to be left a little bit ambiguous, and I didn't really want that to happen. I do like my mysteries to be solved by the time I get to the end of the book. So yes, I thought it was a very satisfactory ending. The final question, number 6, is, would you read another book by this author? And strangely, without realising, because I've probably got about 150 unread books on my Kindle, I do have another book by Jane Harper. I think it's her current one, and it's called, I think, The Lost Man on my Kindle. I didn't realise when I picked this up, when this was chosen for the book club, that I had that book on my Kindle, but I will read it. It will come to the front of the queue sooner now because I'm quite interested to read it. I think it's more standalone. I don't think it's one of the ones in this series, but certainly I would read more by her. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, big thumbs up from me this month. I would be interested to hear what everybody else thought of it as well. I'm going to finish off this bit here because there will no doubt be more added on to the end at some point later in the month. So this month I thought I'd give you a couple of recommendations of books that I have read during the last month or so. I've had a mixed bag of reading actually. A couple I haven't really enjoyed very much at all, but these two I did enjoy. I gave them both 4 stars. So the first one was, I've just grabbed my phone because I've copied the descriptions so I can read the descriptions out to you, because I find it quite difficult to, give a brief summary of a book. I find myself quite rambly when I edit videos back and I'm talking about books, so I thought I'd give the publishers précis rather than ramble on about it for ages. And the first book is Here to Stay by Mark Edwards. I've read several of his books before and I think he's a jolly good writer. He keeps the pace up, he keeps the story going, which I think is quite often a fault these days, don't you, in books? I think that they can start off well and then ramble a lot in the middle, and I guess I'm quite impatient. I want stuff to keep happening, you know. So this book is called Here to Stay, and the description is: a beautiful home, a loving wife, and in-laws to die for. Gemma Robinson comes into Elliot's life like a whirlwind, and they marry and settle into his home. When she asks him if her parents can come and stay for a couple of weeks, he's keen to oblige. He just doesn't know what he's signing up for. The Robinsons arrive with Gemma's sister Chloe, a mysterious young woman who refuses to speak or leave her room. Elliot starts to suspect that the Robinsons are hiding a dark secret, and then there are scars on his wife's body that she won't talk about. As Elliot's in-laws become more comfortable in his home, encroaching on all aspects of his life, it becomes clear that they have no intention, I need to breathe, of moving out. To protect Gemma and their marriage, Elliot delves into the Robinsons' past, but is he prepared for the truth? And this was a really good book. You did have to suspend belief, or suspend disbelief at some points during it. However, overall it was a really good read and it kept me engaged, and I gave it 4 stars. So that's my first recommendation. My second recommendation this month is a book by Adele Parks called Lies, Lies, Lies. Now, I think I've read almost everything Adele has ever written, and I think I've been reading her books for around 20 years, and I've sort of, her style of writing has grown up as she's got older as well. It was sort of quite chick litty to start with, and it's grown up, and I still really enjoy her books, and this one I found particularly engaging. And the description of this one is: Daisy's and Simon's marriage is great, isn't it? After years together, the arrival of longed-for daughter Millie sealed everything in place, a happy little family of 3. And so what if Simon drinks a bit too much sometimes? Daisy's used to it, she knows he's letting off steam, until one night at a party, things spiral horribly out of control, and that happy little family of 3 will never be the same again. In Lies, 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 Adele Parks explores the darkest corners of a relationship in free fall in a mesmerising tale of marriage and secrets. And I think that's quite a good description of it, really. It's full of secrets, full of lies, and it has a couple of quite good twists in it as well. So if you like a sort of dark domestic noir, which is quite twisty, I recommend that one highly. I will link both of those in the description box below. So what I'm reading at the moment, I was just going to talk to you briefly about. I've got 2 books on the go. This is something that I'm trying to do a little bit more. Sorry, I must just have a sip of coffee. I always get asked about this mug as well when I have it on film. It's from Matalan. I don't think they've still got them at the moment, but they have got similar ones in there. What I'm reading at the moment, I'm trying to read 2 books. I'm trying to read a bit more non-fiction this year, and I'm trying to have something non-fiction and something fiction on the go, which I haven't actually got at the moment, because one's autobiography and one is non-fiction. So this one I picked up in the library, and it's about Dynamo, the magician, his autobiography, and it's called Nothing is Impossible. And it's quite interesting. I didn't know much about his life. I'm fascinated by his magic. I think he's incredibly talented and absolutely mesmerising to watch on television. We all like a bit of magic in this household. Ashley's quite into magic, and we went to a magic show with William above a pub in Bath last time we went to Bath, which was absolutely brilliant. I don't know if I mentioned that on here or not, but anyway, I digress. But yeah, Dynamo autobiography. He's a real rags to riches story, and I have great respect for people who work hard to get where they are. I think that's it's a real story of tenacity and overcoming many obstacles to end up doing what he believed in and get to where he wanted to be. And he had some health problems as well, so it's a really interesting read, very easy to read. It's not particularly long. I'll probably finish it today. I've only got that much to go, but yeah, good read, enjoying that. I just picked it up randomly in the library. The other book I'm reading at the moment is this, which is Turning the Tide on Plastic by Lucy Siegel. It's kind of about that far through it, and it's quite a hard read. I picked it up because I wanted to figure out how I could use less single-use plastic. Obviously, it's a hideous worldwide global problem, isn't it? And I feel like we all ought to be doing our bit. And what I've read so far is sort of the history of plastic and how we've got to where we are today, which is a lot of facts and figures and stats and a little bit dry, but I'm hoping to get into the actual practical part of it quite soon, so I will give you an update when I finish that. But yeah, that's the other book I'm reading at the moment. I'll link those two below as well in the description box. And then finally, the only other thing I need to do is tell you what book we're going to read for the book club next month. These with Heather Mitchell-McLean chose three books for us to vote on, which we have done in the Facebook group, and far and away the favourite choice is, oh god, I've forgotten, I think it's called Raven Black by Anne Cleeves. If I'm wrong, I'll put it across the screen here, but yeah, I got more votes than any of the others by quite a long way, so that is what we'll be reading next month. I'll link it again below in the description box, so all the books I've talked about will be linked down there if you want any more information. And all that's left to be said is happy reading, and I will see you again for next month's book club at the end of next month. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.